B'Shem HaShem na'aseh v'natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back in our Tuesday night Ikvita the Mashiach series, the Erev Rav MaShiach, based on a Kuntres written many years ago by Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman. B'ezrat Hashem, tonight's Shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Levana, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Orit bat Ilana, Abigail bat Surya, David ben Etzra'ah, Doris bat Jora, Michal bat Yael, Stefan ben Katarina, Yitro ben Avraham, Talia bat Sarah, Serach bat Batya, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Shaul ben Farzane, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Etzra'ah, and also for a Zivug Agun for our dear friend the Mezakeh Arabim and the Ohev HaShem, our very, very dear friend Reuven Chaim ben Farla Faren, Zivug Agun, Atzlacha Rabba b'chol ma'aseh yadayim, to him and to all of the wonderful people that watch our Shiurim, support our Torah, support our Kiruv work, and Baruch Hashem try to do whatever they can to bring Mashiach closer, but the Jews even closer. The Ikvita the Mashiach series has been a major wake-up call to myself, to I think the people that have been watching this series from the beginning, as we see that Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman practically gives us a prophecy of the news of today, the things that are happening today, not just of his day, but of what we're living into today. If you didn't know that Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, who he was, and you read what he wrote, you would think that he's a current rabbi that's simply talking about what's happening in the news today. And one of the main things that's, I believe, that's happening in the series as it's developing, we see that mamash b'siyata dishmaya, each time we go through the series, each week that we go through it, we go through another small paragraph in the series, we're seeing more and more of what he's saying in line with what's actually happening. As we saw from this week's Parashat Yitro, despite his past, some say that he was like a pope, a idol worshiper, but some say he was simply a very important person and a leader of of Midian over there. But needless to say, he abandoned everything when he heard the extraordinary and awesome God of Israel and what he did for Am Yisrael. Not just that he freed them from the Egyptians, not just that he split Yam Suf for them, not just those things, but not just even fighting Amalek and winning, despite being slaves for so many years and not really having the knowledge of how to fight. Because had we had knowledge to fight, maybe we would have fought the Egyptians and perhaps been freed earlier. But not only that, but rather how Hashem punished the wicked people, how Hashem punished the wicked Egyptians, midah keneged midah, measure for measure. And Vayishma Yitro says, when I heard all of this, when I saw that Hashem punished the Egyptians exactly in the way that they hurt Am Yisrael, I knew that there is no other God that's greater than him. Not that there is other gods, the Mefarshim say, but rather that even the false gods that people worship, no one ever said anything like that about them. But then we see that Yitro had extraordinary good character traits, extraordinary midot, where initially he's standing there all day looking at what Moshe Rabbeinu is doing all day, it says. And only toward the end, he says to Moshe, what is it that you're doing? What is it that you're doing that with the way you're judging people all by yourself? There's a line from here until the end of the exile. It's not going to be good, not for you, not for them. So he has an idea, but he waits. He waits to see his rabbi complete his idea, complete his mission, complete his plan before he expresses his opinion. Unlike, unfortunately, many people today will simply judge a shiur by the topic, or will judge a book by its cover, or we'll judge a rabbi by a single word that he said out of 3,000 shiurim, and simply say, no, I don't like that rabbi. Oh, why don't you like that rabbi? Oh, he said such and such. Well, is that what he said in every lecture, in all the lectures? No, I just heard it once in a clip that was 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and after that, I don't like him. Yeah, but maybe you didn't like that one particular thing, but had you heard the entire 2-hour shiur around the surface of what that single statement was, maybe you actually would have actually agreed with him. Or perhaps even more so, had you heard maybe 10 or 20 of his lectures, read several of his books if he has, and perhaps maybe you see that you're not so different after all, and maybe you are in the wrong and he's in the right. But no, today, Rabotai Karim, the Etzra'ah has confused the generation to judge the righteous as wicked and to judge the wicked as righteous. Now the question is, obviously this is not good, but the question is, what is the consequence? What is the consequence of such things? Somebody came with a question of, what if a person wants to change the way he's serving HaShem, where he is Sephardi, and he wants to become Ashkenazi? Now, on a simple surface of things, I mean, is that allowed? Technically, it's allowed. Halachically, it's allowed. But should he do it? Could he do it? That's a different question. Why? Because it all depends on whether he is doing it for the right reason. So that's the question that you should ask. Before saying yes or no as a rabbi or as anybody, you have to say, why does he want to change from being Sephardi to Ashkenazi, or from Ashkenazi to Sephardi? And in this particular case, this person said, well, because he decided, or he has the belief that the current people that he's with don't have the full story, and they supported Trump, when in reality the good winner, the Biden, which sounds very similar with Bedin, which with judgment, he is the right guy. So he can't find anybody among his community to agree with him. So he figured, so maybe he could change to a different community, pray from a different siddur, don't eat rice on Pesach, or if he's going to go to Ashkenazi, or eat rice on Pesach, even if he's Sfaradi, and so on and so forth. He's just going to change everything. Why? Because the social club that he calls synagogue doesn't agree with him, doesn't agree with what he likes, and therefore he figures that is maybe the other part of the Jewish people are going to agree with him. Now, I know that to some of you that have been watching my shiurim, you're laughing at this right now, saying, is this a real question? It's 100% a real question, and it's not one person or 2 people, that's 3 people that ask these types of questions. Countless people ask these types of questions because they lack learning, they lack the understanding, and I'm not even talking about necessarily always the questioner. Sometimes the questioner is asking for somebody. So it's not necessarily always the questioner. But the reality is, this shows that the person that wants to change does not view the synagogue as a place to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but rather as a social club. The person that's asking this question, the person that wants to make this change, does not view what Torah values are versus what his personal opinion is. He thinks that his personal opinion is Torah values. Why? Because his hero is Joe Biden, where the other people in his community's hero is Donald Trump. Now, everybody knows that from day one, I've never been a very big fan of any of these politicians, whether it be Trump or Hillary or whoever else ran, whoever wants to run. Generally speaking, I've always said this even before HaKadosh Baruch Hu did me the chesed of bringing me back and closer to him. I've always said, and I've always will say, to be a politician, you have to be a criminal. Simple. The word politician comes from a Greek word of tik, bloodsuckers. And that's, in fact, literally from HaShem himself, putting this in the people's head. Oh, yeah, you're going to call these people that run governments and make all the rules and all that stuff, you're going to call them after a tick. Why? Because they're bloodsuckers. And that's the reality, Rabotai. When people admire politicians, whether it be Trump, or it be Biden, or it be Osama, or it be Obama, or it be whoever it's going to be, the reality is, Rabotai Karim, is that you have to ask yourself, what does your admiration of this person say about you? And of course, B'siyata Dishmaya, this is exactly what Rav Wasserman is telling us today. The person that asked this question 15 minutes ago didn't know about the shiur. But now you're going to see how amazing Hashem works, how precise Hashem is, that He literally created the whole world with this shiur in mind. Now, we see that Yitro has extraordinary midot, despite his background of being extremely successful, popular, rich, and everything else. He sits there like a good little boy, waiting for his rabbi to finish the job so he can understand what it is before he expresses his opinion. Why? Because the rabbi obviously knows better than me. After he sees everything done, he says, listen, I have an idea. I have an idea because what you're doing, it's good. I'm not saying it's bad, chas v'shalom. And as you look at the commentaries, that's exactly what he's saying. He's not saying that what Moshe Rabbeinu is doing is bad. It's good what you're doing, but it can be done better. How could it be done better? If you have some helpers, you delegate. You delegate and you make the entire judicial system that we have today. Now, Rabotai Yekarim, sometimes people want to delegate things from the rabbis to themselves. They figure that the rabbis don't know what they're talking about because figure the rabbis are learning Gemara, they're learning Chumash, they're learning Halacha. What do the rabbis know about medicine? What do the rabbis know about politics? What do the rabbis know about business? They don't know anything, these rabbis. They're just learning these old ancient books. What do they know? Little do they know that what they're saying and what they're thinking is a desecration of a Torah, first of all. And second of all, it's also wrong. Why? Everything is in it. Everything is in it. Afochba ve'afochba dekulaba, says the Mishnah in Avot. Delve into it and delve into it because everything is in it. All 7 wisdoms that exist in the world are in the Torah. Mathematical knowledge, business knowledge, medical knowledge, obviously halachic, historical. Everything and anything you could possibly want is inside the Torah. And anyone that spends a little bit of time just learning about the sages, not even talking about learning Torah, just go pick yourself up the bio about Rav Wasserman. Go pick yourself up the bio about Rav Ovadia. Go even further. Go pick yourself up the bio about Rashi, or the bio about the Gaon Vilna, or go pick up yourself some of the stories that are told about our sages and what they did in their life, the businesses they ran, the empires they built, the extraordinary communities they were a part of and built, and so on and so forth. And you tell me you think you're smarter than these people? Obviously not. But you think you're smarter than the local rabbi because you figure, yeah, okay, the Gaon Vilna, if he was my rabbi, I would listen to him because surely he knows more. But this local guy that's only 20, 30, 40, 50 something, 60 something, what does he know? He's just like me, puts his pants on one leg at a time. He's just a rabbi, reads some old books. This is as ridiculous as can be. And what makes it even more ridiculous is that you ask the guy, okay, so who do you admire? Who is your superhero? And they start throwing you some names. And the names get worse by the second. First they tell you their favorite politician, whether it be this one or that one. It's like, wait, so this guy, he's your superhero? This Biden is your superhero? So you know that you know who the person is by the fruits that he produces, right? So you realize that his son is a pedophile. You don't know that, right? And it's not like he's a pedophile that's like put and no one knows about him. He's actually a pedophile that's very much involved in his father's whole enterprise. In fact, he's very likely to run for president one day if everything goes as planned. You realize that. That's the fruit. There is also similar sayings about the father, but that's a different story. You admire that guy. You admire the guy that has been caught lying on camera more times than he was caught saying the truth. That's the guy you admire. You admire the guy that just a week ago was on tape, recorded Ribono Shel Olam signing a document while he's saying, I don't know what I'm signing. And that's the guy you admire. That's your hero. Okay, no problem. No, you admire Trump? I don't admire Trump either. What, the womanizer, the adulterer, the arrogant person that celebrated firing people and embarrassing them in public? No, we don't admire him either. But just, again, we're not comparing him to him. We're comparing who you admire and what you admire, and you're admiring these politicians. Okay, so now, forget about politicians, Rabbi. I also admire big businessmen. All right, so tell me which big businessmen you admire. Oh, I admire Warren Buffett. Kol hakavod, Warren Buffett. Why do you admire Warren Buffett? Oh, because Warren Buffett made a lot of money. Now, let me ask you a question. After he dies, how much of that money can he take with him? Well, nothing, Rabbi. He can't take nothing with him. Well, okay, so what can he take with him? Well, nothing. What's left of him? Well, his name. Well, what is his name? Is his name Berkshire Hathaway? That's the name of the company. It's not his name. Yeah, but it'll always be connected to him. Wrong. It will not always be connected to him. It will be connected to whoever is running the company. And trust me when I tell you, as soon as the rich guy that built the building and put his name on the building dies, somebody else with a bigger ego puts his name on the building as if he built it. Same thing with the company. Now you're going to say, well, what else did he do? Well, you look at his family life. His kids barely even know who he is. His wife left him. His billions and billions of dollars are literally sitting in some bank account in stocks and bonds while he still eats the same $1 to $2 breakfast every single day. That's what you admire. Okay, well, I also admire, let's see, the guy from Amazon. He's the richest guy in the world. I mean, he built a great company. You're right. Jeff Bezos did build a great company that I use every single day. In fact, I like Amazon so much, sometimes if I have absolutely nothing to do and I'm in a place that I can't learn, you know what I do? I go to Amazon just to look for something. It's a fantastic company. But that doesn't mean you should admire the person. Why? Because he's also known. If you read his bio, you read the stories about him, it's not the same as our sages. Why? What do they say about Jeff Bezos? They say that he's such a vicious person. Every single day people leave the meetings with him crying hysterical. That's who you admire. You admire a person like that. You admire a person that supports liberalism, that's anti-Torah. That's who you admire. I'm not saying don't use the product. We're talking about the person. No. I actually admire my iPhone producer, the guy Jobs. Oh, the atheist. You admire an atheist. You admire a person that thinks we came from nothing and we end up being nothing, but yet right 3 seconds before he died, he says, maybe I should have looked at this a little further. Maybe I should have looked at this whole God thing a little further. So in essence, admitting that his entire life was a mistake. That's who you admire, and also had a reputation for destroying people's lives and so on, and stealing and so on and so forth. Now, the point, Rabotai, is that people admire the results people have in something they want, but yet they think that makes those people admirable. They admire Messi because he can kick a ball really, really good. They admire Michael Jackson, Shem Reshaim Yerkav, because he can sing and dance. You're not looking at the person, you're looking at certain things they did, and unfortunately, you're not noticing it, and you start celebrating these people. I saw this this mini documentary about some guy that is a businessman, seems like a very nice fellow, poor guy, Bezat Hashem will do tshuva. He claims that his biggest success in life was that after Kobe Bryant, the basketball player that cheated on his wife and got caught, but then to save his marriage, bought his wife a multi-million-dollar ring. That guy, after he died tragically with his daughter, he wanted to celebrate his name. What did he do? He got a car with his face on it and his daughter's face on it, and that's how he got his big high five from the entire Los Angeles community, and anybody likes the LA Lakers basketball team. He thinks that's his biggest success in life. I mean, the reality is the same guy that did it in 5, 10, 20 years from now is going to cry tears of blood of how stupid what he did was. How much money he wasted, how much time he wasted, and in reality, how stupid what he did was. Why? You admired a person that had a horrific personal life because he knows how to shoot a ball. You admire a person that got to become president as a result of different types of scams that he did because of that, but not because of the other things. You're admiring people for the wrong reason is the point. And unfortunately, you're not alone. Almost everybody does it. People admire soccer players and baseball players and celebrities and rich people and people on TV. You know, people admire all these rich hedge fund managers. I myself always looked up to some of these hedge fund managers for their career. Never admired them as people. I read about them. I know about them, some of them at least, about their personal lives, and some of them are quite interesting people. But the reality is, people that admire those people, they're not admiring them for the right reasons. Why? You're admiring them for what they have, not who they are. And that is a very big mistake. Why? Because when you realize what they are and not what they have, you realize that what they have is not worth it, as if that's what makes you who you are. You see, Rabotai Karim, this type of stuff is what kills the Jewish people generation after generation. It's what kills society generation after generation. We admire the wrong people for the wrong reasons. And unfortunately, this is happening now. And I thank HaShem that Trump has left office. Not because I think Biden will be good. I actually think Biden will be terrible for everybody. But I think the fact that so many Jewish people admired him, almost to the extent of thinking of him as a MaShiach, I think it's good that Hashem relieved us of the sin of idolatry, of how much admiration he got. Now, again, does that mean good for the Jewish people? Or it at least means less sins. It doesn't necessarily mean good. Why? Because the guy that's there now is not exactly the most pro-Jewish person on planet Earth, if we could say. Now, the reality is, Rabotai, is that if we continue admiring these people, the local guy that's the rich guy, and he comes to Beit Knesset once a year and he donates $500,000 and everybody says, Chazaku Baruch. As we heard last week in a story about Rav Yaakov Naiman, who his community found a Sefer Torah in the bathroom and started crying over it. And he says to them, what, did you forget that when that Apikos, that heretic rich Jew, came to the community, you celebrated his coming by taking out the Sifrei Torah out of the Aron HaKodesh in his honor? So that's it. What Hashem is telling you is that these Sifrei Torah that you took in his honor, this Apikos, this enemy of Hashem, you took the Sifrei Torah in his honor, it's better that they go in the bathroom instead of going to his honor. Why are you so surprised? We admire people that for the wrong reasons. We admire what they have, but we make it into who they are because we assume that because they have it, therefore they are something else. A guy like Michael Jackson, people admired him and still to this day admire this pedophile, a guy that literally has damaged more young children than probably anybody else during his era. But yet people still admire him because he can dance and he turned his skin into a different color and he can make a ton of money and pretend like he's Disneyland. This is a guy people admired back then, but even worse, they admire him after it was confirmed he was a pedophile. What does that say? What does that say about us when we admire such people? This is what Rav Wasserman, Bezrat Hashem, is going to answer tonight, Bezrat Hashem. It is Kuntres, era of Mashiach, where he told us about all of the bad shepherds that we've had throughout the history and will have at the time before Mashiach. All of the bad shepherds, all of the bad leaders that will lead us astray, either the politicians or the rabbis or the different community leaders, whoever they are, there's going to be many of them. And the Zohar HaKadosh specifies in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that the vast majority of rabbis at the last generation will be Erev Rav. Erev Rav means enemy of Am Yisrael, enemy of the Mashiach. They're going to fight the Mashiach. Now, don't worry, your rabbi may not be, but he may be. Who knows? The key is to know that there is signs, indications. Who's Erev Rav, who's not. There's indications. What's right, what's wrong. There's actual clarity. What's right, what's wrong. But we have to learn Torah for that. Rav Wasserman has told us that there's going to be many bad shepherds that lead us astray in our day, just like there was in his day. And he blames all the fault on those bad leaders taking the rest of the nation, the sheep, that follow them, follow the bad leaders for the wrong reasons, follow them because of what they have and not what they are. Follow them, and that let the whole flock of sheep off the cliff, one after another, generation after generation, and unfortunately it won't be so different today during the time of Mashiach, unless people do tshuva. And Baruch Hashem, every single day we get more and more messages of more people doing tshuva, but no matter how many we get, it's still not enough. If it's 5, if it's 10, if it's 5,000, or 10,000. It still won't be enough until every single Jew comes back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because the reality is, Rabotai, the more you deal with Am Yisrael, the more you feel bad for them and for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that this person, if he doesn't do TeShuva, he's doomed. There is no TeShuva after Mashiach comes. If Mashiach shows up, and this person has not started keeping Shabbat and doing TeShuva, has not stopped wasting seed, has not stopped being an adulterer, has not stopped doing all the things that are forbidden according to the Torah, he will not see anything good. And you have to feel bad for Kadosh Baruch Hu that he has such a son, that he has such a daughter, that he has such a people that do not know right or left because they're too busy admiring politicians, superstars, celebrities, and a bunch of other reshaim. So much so that this has infected, this epidemic that has lasted for thousands of years of admiring the wrong people has hurt us for generations and unfortunately has even infected rabbis. This is why Yitro says to Moshe Rabbeinu, if you're going to pick judges to run this new judicial system, make sure these people know Torah, have Yirat Shamayim, and do not care for money. Not saying they're homeless on the street, but money is not their God. Because if money is their God, they can be bought. Their judgment can be bought. And unfortunately, Rabotai Karim, there wasn't enough people that were able to be judges that hated money. And hence we see later on in the Torah that the same judges that Moshe Rabbeinu put in power, 250 judges that he put in power, all of them went against Moshe Rabbeinu by joining Korach. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bechvodo Be'atzmo, killed every single one of them. Why? They could have all of the knowledge in the world. They could have all of the money in the world. They could have all of the opinions of the world. They could have all of the reputation in the world, and they will never be able to change a single yud, a single letter in the Holy Torah. The second they went against the Torah by going against Moshe Rabbeinu, they already signed their own death penalty. And that's what's going to happen to every single person who does not do tshuva, Rabotai Yekarim. This is not to scare you, this is to warn you. Simple. There's a stop sign, not to scare you, to warn you. If you blow the stop sign, you can get killed. Simple. You don't believe it? Go ahead, try your luck. The traffic sign has red, has yellow, has green. The green tells you go, do what you got to do. Yellow is a warning. Don't get in trouble. Don't go too fast. You have to slow down. Why? Because red is coming. Red is not a warning. Red is simply instructions. Stop or you're going to die. This is what this is. It's simply telling people to wake up from their own slumber of admiring wicked people, pedophiles, admiring people that care less about you. Admire these rich people as if they're heroes. Little do you know, they're the very same people that are operating against your average investor, your average entrepreneur, because they can. Manipulating markets, manipulating governments. Trust me, I was in the business for 20 years. I was in the market business. I know all about it. I know about the politicians that take advantage of insider information policies the government has in order to benefit themselves. It's not a surprise to me that your average politician that makes $150,000 a year lives in a $10, $20, $30 million house. Mathematically, it should never work. Why? Even if he worked in politics for 1,000 years, he still wouldn't be able to afford that house. But yet, they each do. Why? Because they do things for themselves by taking advantage of things that you can't. You would go to jail for the things that they do, but they're allowed to do it. Same thing with other rich people. You think that, oh, this guy's a superhero. He's telling us about his new idea that he's investing in his fund. How gracious of him. How nice of him. No, he's just promoting his own investment, and you're the fool that's following. Simple. He just wants to make money. If you want to follow it because it's a good idea, go for it. But don't think that makes him a good person. That just makes him a good marketer. But that's the reality, Rabotai. People admire people for the wrong reasons. And Rav Wasserman says here, what that tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu about us. What does that tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu about us? He says the following. He brings a pasuk. He brings a pasuk from the book of Proverbs. Book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 21, that says, Mitzaref lakesef v'kur laza'av v'ish lefi ma'alalo. Rav Wasserman says, it said in the book of Proverbs, the refining pot is for silver and the furnace is for gold, and a man is tried by his praise. What does this mean? When a person is in a jewelry business and he wants to know whether what this customer is giving him is real silver, he has to put it in a refining pot to see what percentage of this metal that he's giving him is real silver versus nothing, versus something that's worthless. Why? He's not going to pay you 27, 25, 20, whatever the price is of silver is. He's not going to pay you that price for the whole piece of metal you're giving him. He's only going to pay you that price for the actual silver part. So he has to refine it. Same thing with gold. You go take your piece of jewelry that you paid $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for to your jeweler, to your pawn shop, to somebody that's going to buy gold, which there's, Baruch Hashem, plenty of Jews in that business, and Baruch Hashem, if they're honest, it's good for them. It's a good business. If they're not honest, Hashem Yishmo. May Hashem save them from their own sins. Point being is, you're going to take that piece of gold, jewelry, and say, oh, listen, I want to sell it. I bought this jewelry for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 because it says Louis Vuitton. It says, I don't know, whatever other names are in the jewelry business, these different designers. Oh, you know, Jacob the jeweler designed it for me. I want you to pay me that. He goes, hey, listen, I'm sorry. It doesn't say Jacob. It doesn't say jeweler. It doesn't say Tiffany. It doesn't say Biffany. It doesn't say nothing. All it says to me, 18 carats, 14 carats, 24. That's all it says to me. It doesn't say to me nothing. Why? I'm buying the gold. I don't care how much you paid for the gold. I don't care how much you paid for the jewelry. I'm buying whatever is here is gold. That's what I'm paying for. Net weight. Why? Because I'm going to take this jewelry that means so much to you at a certain point in your life and doesn't mean so much to you today. I'm going to take it. I'm going to melt it. But remember, this piece of jewelry that you have, already the brand name, unless it's a very, very fancy brand name, is worthless. And 9 out of 10 times they are worthless. And second of all, it's not all gold. Part of it is some waste of time metal that is needed in order to harden the metal, in order to have the metal do what it's doing. Bend a certain way, look a certain way, and so on and so forth. So what is he going to do? He's going to take your gold and put it in a furnace. Now, that's a sight to be seen. You put this gold in a furnace, and you see it all turn to lava. It's unbelievable. It's a beautiful sight to be seen. And then you see your piece of jewelry and a bunch of turned into a little piece of liquid over there. He said, okay, listen, you have this gold over here, but before he puts it into the furnace, he tests it and so on and so forth. In the end, he's going to tell you, and again, if you're in the jewelry business, don't rip my head apart if I'm not doing your exact process of how you're refining jewelry. Point being is, he's going to tell you, listen, this piece of gold, it's weighing, let's say, I don't know, 2 ounces, big piece of jewelry, good. Out of the 2 ounces, only 1 ounce is actual gold. The other ounce is chalta, nothing. So I'm going to pay you 1 ounce of gold. 1 ounce of gold right now is, I don't know, whatever it is. It's $1,500, $2,000, whatever it is today. That's what I'm going to pay you. You're going to look at, well, hold on a second. What do you mean? I paid $15,000 for this thing. You're going to pay me $1,500? Goes, yeah, and I'm giving you top dollar. I'm giving you 90% on the money. What 90%? I just lost 90%. He goes, no, Habibi. Listen, your gold is only worth, your jewelry is only worth its weight in gold. Your jewelry is only worth its weight in silver. Not the brand name and not the other extra fluff that's on top of it. All I'm looking for is the actual precious metal itself. Whatever you paid for it is not my business. The only thing that's of value here is the actual metal itself, the precious metal itself. You have here 1 ounce of gold. You have here 10 ounces of silver. You have here a few $100s or a few $1,000s at best. Or you can go to my friend next door or 500,000 other people on 47th Street and other places around the world that will pay you the same thing, more or less. What would you want? I have somebody waiting behind you. And that's what it is. And the guy finds out This piece of jewelry that he thought he's going to pay 18 mortgages with can't even pay a single monthly payment for tuition. Why? Because that's all it's worth. That's what Shlomo HaMelech is saying in the first part. And he says a person, what is he worth? What is a person worth? Is a person worth what Forbes says his net worth is? Or what his bank statements say? What his stock portfolio says? How many good stocks he picked? How many pieces of real estate he bought that went up? How many communities he developed and built buildings? What is he worth? How nice his talit is? How shiny his kippah is? How long his beard is? What is he worth? Shlomo HaMelech, the Chacham Kol Adam, says a person is worth. His value is based on who he values. Why? Because who he values, who his hero is, who he admires, that tells us everything about him. But what about the money that he made? Worthless. What about the people that he did business with? Worthless. What about nothing? Who does he admire? Who does she admire? Who's your superhero? Young woman calls in to Rabbi Ephraim's live shiur just a day or two ago and asks him, Rabbi, can I admire this famous non-Jewish singer? And he says to her, why? Why would you admire him? And she says, well, he sings so good, and he dances, and he does this, and he does that, and admire. He says to him, this guy's an adulterer. This guy is a promiscuous person. This guy sings about all types of filthy things all day. This guy is a wicked person. Why would you admire such a person? The poor girl doesn't even know what hit her. She felt like he just cursed her father out. Oh, how could you say that? He's my hero. I love him. I would marry him. You would marry this noef, this adulterer, this filthy person? You would marry this person? You know what kind of miserable life you would be? You would have? You would marry this person? But that's what happens, Rabotai. Because we put ourselves in the wrong tune. Your mind is supposed to be tuned to the rules of HaShem. Torah. Instead, it was tuned to Etzra'ah. Instead of Torah, it's Etzra'ah. So instead of admiring who people are, we admire what they have. And unfortunately, that leads us to many bad marriages, many bad business relationships, many bad relationships, period. Shlomo HaMelech says, you can tell everybody this simple rule. Just like your piece of jewelry, its value is based on how much gold it has. Its value is based on how much silver it has. Your weight, your value is based on who you admire, who you praise. And Rav Wasserman continues and he says, how shall man be tried in order that his inner self may be known? Meaning, how do you know the inside of a person? He can say whatever he wants to say, but if he acts differently than what he says, it's like the pasuk that Isaiah said in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'pivu b'sfatav kibduni v'libam richak mimeni. In their mouth and their lips, they honored me, but their hearts were far away from me. Some people say one thing, but they do something else. Unfortunately, we see this all over the world. In the business world, in the rabbinical world, the guy says, yeah, I love HaShem, while he's raping little children. He says, I love people, I love people, while he has businesses that are hurting people. We see this all the time. People that are simply hypocrites. But they're hypocrites with a strategy. They tell you they love you while they stab you in the back, just to make sure that by the time you heard their completion of the sentence, you already died because it's too late for you to feel the pain. Now, Rabotai Kalim, Rav Wasserman is bringing us Shlomo HaMelech. And all of what he's saying today, this entire paragraph, is in the name of Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the Rishonim, one of the earlier sages that was of the family of the Ramban, Rabbeinu Yonah, that wrote Shaarei Teshuvah. And he writes the following. He says, how should man be tried in order that his inner self be known? Through those whom he praises. We must see those whom he praises. If he always praises good people, it's a sign that he too is basically good. If this guy always says, listen, this rabbi is Talmid Chacham, this guy is a good guy. Why is he a good guy? Oh, he does good things, he gives, he's generous, he serves HaShem, he keeps Shabbat, if he's not Jewish, he's a righteous Noahide, and so on and so forth. Well, how much money does he have? I don't know. How much money did he donate to me? I don't know. What does he do for a living? I don't know. Oh, so you're judging him based on the things that he actually does and not necessarily what he has, not his bankroll. Okay, so you're judging people that are good. You're constantly looking up to people that are good. Chazaku Baruch. Why? Why Chazaku Baruch? They're good. No, you praise people that are good on a regular basis. That means that you're good. That means that inside you are pure. You're good. Because that's who you admire. You admire people that you want to be like. And if you want to be like the good people, that shows a lot about yourself. If it is his bent to praise wicked people, evildoers, it shows that he too is to be counted among them. If your superhero are a bunch of wicked people, what does that say? Rabbeinu Yonah says, and Rav Wasserman in his name, it says that you are wicked. And you're going to say, wait a minute, what? Just because I admire Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and Michael Jackson, and Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, and Osama bin Laden, Obama, and all these people, it makes me a wicked person? Yes. Yeah, it makes you a wicked person. That's offensive, Rabbi. Let it be offensive, it's true. Why? You admire wicked people. Why? Because inside you are one. Simple. Well, I didn't do anything wicked. I didn't kill nobody. You don't have to kill anybody to be wicked. You don't have to kill anybody to be wicked. Killing somebody does make you wicked, but it's not the only thing that makes you wicked. It's not the only thing that makes you evil. The local drug dealer doesn't think that he's an evil person. He says, no, sir, I'm not killing nobody. I'm just giving them what they want. I had a young Jewish kid who says he went to yeshiva. I don't really believe him. But anyway, he says he went to yeshiva. And after one of my talks in this community, after the shiur, he says, so wait, so according to me, like I made the rules. Like I was at Mount Sinai over there with Moshe Rabbeinu, Chavuta, and Hashem said, listen, Moshe, meet Yaron. Yaron, Moshe, here you go, I'm going to give both of you the Torah, like as if it's my rules. He said, so according to you, Rabbi, you really can't sell drugs, you're saying. I said, you mean like drugs that are illegal drugs? He said, yeah, whatever, illegal or, whatever you want to call it. Of course you're not allowed to sell it. He goes, why not? I'm just providing a service. This is what he said to me. And I have a witness. One of my, I'm telling you, there was a bunch of people next to us. I couldn't believe my eyes. I wanted to start crying. The little kid, this little, 14, 15-year-old kid, this little peanut, got the education of the Malach HaMavit. His teacher may have been Hitler or something. I don't know. Somebody taught this kid that providing people drugs is providing a service. Like, what? It's not my fault that they want to take it. They want it. I'm selling it. I want to make money. They want to take drugs. It's their problem. That's the mentality of a wicked person. But not just wicked, Rabotai. Evil. Evil. Of course, that kid could do TeShuva. Of course. And other people that are doing evil things can do TeShuva. Everybody can change if they want to. As one of my students recently wrote, the choices that you make, the decisions that you make are your choice. Meaning that whatever you decide not to change, or the changes that you make, that's your choice. Meaning that if you want to make a change or you don't want to make a change, you want to change for the good, you want to change for the bad, that's your free choice in essence. You can do it. You can stay a murderer. You can stay an evil person. Or you can be a good person. Depends. You can still continue selling people products that are bad, pretending that they're good. You can still continue providing people a service that's going to destroy their business. You can continue doing all types of wicked things. Or you can change. Now, what does that have to do with the people that you admire? Because the people that you admire, they do what you want to do. You admire their life because of what they do. And what they're doing for sure is wicked if they're wicked people. Therefore, you yourself are wicked by default. Now, Rabotai, Rav Wasserman continues and he says, if he praises the evildoers, it shows that he too is to be counted among them. When we hear whom these religious nationalists, these Dati Leumi, modern Orthodox type, who they're praising, as we learned in the previous Shurim, they praise the Zionist leaders that hated the Torah. They praise the Zionist leaders that were helping the Christians recruit Jews to their idol worship. They praise all types of atheists, missionaries, and so on and so forth. We see who they admire. We can know their character. Meaning, I don't need to get to know every single modern Orthodox person or Dati Leumi person, specifically of his day, in order to know what the overall mentality is. I don't need to. Well, I'm saying I don't need to know his personality. What you see, what the overall mentality is. If you see that the entire community is more inclined to celebrate a Super Bowl party, more inclined to celebrate a NHL tournament, some hockey tournament, more inclined to celebrate the debates among the presidential campaigns, rather than a Siyum Shas, completion of the entire Gemara, or Siyum Rambam, or any Siyum. They're more excited, more people showing up to watch the political debate in the synagogue. More people are showing up to the charitable poker tournament in the synagogue. More people are showing up to the Super Bowl party and a Thanksgiving party in the synagogue than they are showing up to a Shiur Torah that shows you what the community is and also shows you what the leaders are. The leaders that are catering to them are no different to them. Don't think for a second, no, he's only having the Super Bowl party and the chess party and the Thanksgiving party and the political party and all this party because he's catering to his community in hopes that in between the halftime show, dancing and pritzut and immorality and everything, they're going to learn maybe a daf. They're going to learn a little bit of a chabura. They're going to learn a little bit of Torah together. Babkis. We have a rule in the Torah. En mitzvah ba'a be'avera. No mitzvah is made in a way of sin. No mitzvah is made by way of sin. He is having that party because he also wants to watch football. He also wants to have Thanksgiving. He also wants to play poker. He also wants to be part of the whole thing. He is just like them. He's one of those shepherds that unfortunately is misdirecting his community. What if he doesn't have it? They're not going to come. Don't come. Don't come. Well, then he's going to have an empty community. Who says? You? How did Am Yisrael survive for the last 3,000 years? Poker tournaments? Super Bowl parties? Thanksgiving dinners? Am Yisrael never had such things until the recent generations. Am Yisrael survived because they ran away from such filth. That's how Am Yisrael survived. You're only still a Jew in this world because of those Jews that ran away from that garbage. All of those mityavnim, these people that became Greeks in their mentality by watching sports and other waste of life, admiring a bunch of warriors instead of admiring the sages, all of those people simply disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, unfortunately, you still have some of them today. They're not related to the ones from 2,000 years ago. They're unfortunately related to the ones of today. Generation, 2 generations, 3 generations, that's it. Why? The ones from 2,000 years ago, a gun. The ones from 500 years ago, a gun. The ones that are today that are admiring your basketball players, your football players, your Wall Street tycoon, all those people, they're just from now. They're from now. And if they don't change, if they don't do TeShuva, if their kids don't start waking up and realizing Torah is the only thing to admire. The sages are the only thing to admire. Talmidei Chachamim are the only thing to admire. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only thing to admire. They too will be gone. Why? Because when you admire the wicked, you become the wicked. And when you are wicked, HaKadosh Baruch Hu eventually has to destroy the person. And we'll see. Written proof by the Chachamim of this being exactly what I'm saying. Rav Wasserman says that when we hear about who these modern Orthodox types of people are praising, we know what their character is. And it's clear, the one who loves the Torah cannot love its enemies. One who honors the Torah cannot honor those who degrade the Torah. As Rabbeinu Yonah says, the honoring of the evildoers is just like Job said in chapter 31, verse 12, is a fire which completely destroys. Honoring the wicked people is a fire that completely destroys. Rabotai Yekarim. Now, you have people that are going to disagree with every single word that I said just far. So let's go to a little bit of sources. Sources that Rabbeinu Yonah said. Sources that Rav Wasserman is quoting. One of them is Rabbeinu Yonah, Third Gate, section 148. Saying about 800 years ago, those who belittle a Torah scholar and his fear of HaShem abrogate this awareness, and through their behavior they manifest the exact opposite of what they are supposed to be doing to serve Hashem, as if they are declaring that serving Hashem is not of primary importance, that honor and glory lie in the success found through worldly affairs, that there exists something fundamental aside from servicing of Hashem, and they also desecrate the Torah. It says the people that think that there is something more important in the world than serving Hashem, Jew or Gentile. You think that there is something more important than doing everything Hashem says. You think that the worldly affairs, money and otherwise, is much more important. It's of higher priority. Even if you say that, listen, this is important and this is important, they're equal. That type of mentality is a desecration of the Torah, Rabbeinu Yonah says. So what happens to such a person who desecrates the Torah that way? Consequently, they will perish from the congregation and will be destroyed as a result of what they say. For they serve Hashem bereft of Torah study. He says, he's not talking about secular people that are violating Shabbat, marrying to Goyim and so on. No. He's talking about religious people, Rabotai. He's talking about people within our communities that are keeping Shabbat, keeping kosher, they build a sukkah on Sukkot, they eat matzah on Pesach and so on, but they think that their business, they think that the political situation, they think that coronavirus knowledge, they think that there's anything more important than serving Hashem. And how do they rationalize it? They rationalize by saying, no, this too is a way to serve Hashem. They rationalize it. That in itself is an error in the fundamentals. Although you're allowed to make a living, although you're allowed to be successful even. No problem. I always tell people, if you're already going to work, be the best at what you do. Make billions. But don't make that your God. Don't make that your whole life. Work just enough to do what you need to do without disturbing the amount of Torah that you need to learn and practice. But if you're going to make your business life, your reputation, your marketing, all revolve around your aspirations for money and kavod and so on, you are admiring something more than Hashem, and that can lead to destruction. Destruction, Rabotai, is permanent. Then Rabbeinu Yonah goes and elaborates further in same Third Gate, but in section 187. in a section called Kat Achanfanim, the class of flatterers. All of these so-called rabbis and community people that kiss up to the local rich people that show up to the Beit Knesset once or twice a year, or perhaps even every week, driving on Shabbat, but no one says a thing. Why? Because he donates $100,000 a year. He donates $1 million a year. So why should I say anything? Like this young poor kid who didn't even know he's not Jewish tells me one time, listen, I just came back from the IDF. I served in the Israeli army. I this, I that. So I talked to him for a little while, and I said, okay, who's this, who's that? And I find out that his father converted his mother. Oh, I said, wow, it's very interesting. Your father converted, your mom converted. Okay, that's good. Oh, so your parents are very religious. He goes, well, I mean, they're not religious like you. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I mean, it's you probably don't drive on Shabbat. I said, no. Obviously not. No. Why? What, your father drives on Shabbat? He goes, yeah, he drives to the Knesset. He does a few things, but he doesn't work. I said, wait, so your father drives on Shabbat, but your mom is a convert? And he says, yeah. I said, well, did she drive on Shabbat also? Because, yeah, she always drove. So I'm looking at it, I was like, okay, this already sounds like a fishy conversion. So I don't tell him everything yet. I'm just talking to the kid, and then little by little I find out that his mom converted, and his father is a Kohen. His father's a Kohen. A Kohen is not allowed to marry a convert, meaning the marriage is not allowed, and his mom is not a real convert. And I tell him, like, by the way, this is not allowed. Some of the things, I give him a little insight. He doesn't even know what's right or left. So I'm trying to, like, plant some seeds here. And he says to me, oh, come on. Listen, my father may not be as religious as you, but you know how much he donates? I said, no, I don't know how much he donates. He goes, listen, him and Mr. Goldenberg, they are the biggest donors every Rosh Hashanah. They compete, who's going to buy. And they're always, my father's always at least 100,000 or more. And then I find out who facilitated this entire Chilul Hashem of a Kohen marrying an illegitimate convert and a bunch of kids coming out of it that are illegitimate kids that are not supposed to even think that they're Jewish because they're not Jewish. Who is doing all this? The rabbi. The rabbi did all of this. Why did he do it? Because the Khanfan, he's one of these flatterers that he didn't want to tell the guy the truth because the guy is giving him too much money. And he's not the only one, and he's not the first one, and he's not, unfortunately, the last one. Rabbeinu Yonah already wrote about him and people like him 800 years ago. The Gemara in Masekhet Sanhedrin asks, how did Korach convince 250 of the biggest rabbis in the world that Moshe Rabbeinu put into power? How did Korach convince all of them, without exception, to go against the same Gdol Ador, Gdol Olam, Isha Elokim, Moshe Rabbeinu? Gemara says, money. Money. He bought their opinion with money. But not all at once. 100,000 here, 1 million over there, a building over here, a yeshiva over there, and little by little his opinion becomes Da'at Torah. Little by little, his opinion becomes the opinion of a Torah in their mind. And unfortunately, this happens until today. Many, many people claim to be rabbis, but unfortunately, they do not tell their community, wicked people, the truth because they're afraid of losing donations. This is murder. This is outright murder. But it's not me saying. Rabbeinu Yonah is about to say it right now. He already said it 800 years ago. I'm just going to repeat it. In section 187, in the third gate, Rabbeinu Yonah says the following. The first category of flatterers, because there are 9 categories of different types of flatterers. It's flatterers who recognize or sees and knows that his fellow, his hand is tainted with sins, with iniquity. And yet he embraces deceit, despite it being a sin. And this person that knows that his friend is a sinner, knows his friend is a thief, knows his friend is a liar, knows his friend is a mechalel Shabbat, knows his friend is murdering people with his business and with his all types of behaviors. He knows all of this. But he smooth talks him with an evil tongue and says, you've committed no wrong. You're a tzaddik, Mr. Goldenberg. You're a tzaddik, Mr. Smith. You're a tzaddik, Mr. Shalom. Tzaddik, the guy drove to shul on Shabbat. Tzaddik, the guy lent $5 million this week at an interest rate of 70-80% average. How is that tzaddik? Tzaddik, the guy, just ordered $10-20 million worth of goods with an intention to never pay the supplier. What kind of tzaddik? You know all of this about him and you're still saying he's a tzaddik. Why? Because he gave some money to your synagogue or your yeshiva? That's called an evil tongue. He knows he's committed wrong and he says, no, you did nothing wrong. It's just goyim, you're doing it too. You know, you could take advantage. Who says you could take advantage of goyim? It's the opposite. It's the opposite. The Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, and many other poskim, as we've discussed in the past, say it's worse to steal from goyim than it is to steal from Jews. Worse. Why? Because it's also chilul Hashem. Or he said, no, but he didn't mean to. What do you mean he didn't mean to? His whole business practice is like that. He charged people a bunch of retainer fees knowing he can't provide the service. And you know all of this. So then Rabbeinu Yonah continues saying, not only has the flatterer, this fake leader, this fake rabbi, not only is the flatterer, or he could be even his fake friend. He has a religious friend. You know, some people that I know. They tell me, listen, you know, I've always been religious, but I got a couple of, friends of mine in my office. You know, they're not so religious. You know, I mean, what do you mean they're not so religious? Yeah, you know, this guy is going out with a non-Jew. That girl, she's married to a non-Jew. This guy, he's this. He eats, on Yom Kippur. This guy, this. I said, these are your friends or these people just work in your office? He goes, no. You know, they're friends. They come over for birthday parties. They come over for this. What kind of friends do you have? Why don't you tell them something? No, I don't want to ruin the friendship. I don't want to tell them about Shabbat or this. Oh, wait, so you're telling me you're inviting them all over to Shabbat every week on a regular basis for years already, and you never told them not to drive on Shabbat? They're coming to your house with a car, they're leaving your house with a car on Shabbat, and you don't say a word? No, why? Is that something wrong? Yeah, you're a murderer. That's what's wrong. What do you mean? I didn't do nothing. You did everything. You have the knowledge because you're religious. Either you are Baal Tshuva or you grew up religious. Doesn't really make a difference. You know that you're not allowed to drive on Shabbat, and you're not even telling them this. You're not telling them that they're going to destroy their lives. Your friend, your brother, your sister is married to a non-Jew, and you're not saying to them that they're literally in serious trouble. Their life is on the line. You're not crying. You're not in a situation where you're literally just begging these people to at the very least watch a shiur. No, I sent them a couple of shiurim, but they didn't want to watch, and they said stop sending it to me, so I stopped sending it. Oh, so it's okay they're committing suicide just because they said no, that's it, finished. You're just going to let them commit suicide? Well, I don't want to ruin the friendship. What friendship? Who needs friends like you? You're a flatterer. You're a person that tells me he's doing nothing wrong. This, Rabotai, is a sin. It's a very big sin. Why is it a sin? Rabbeinu Yonah says, not only has the flatterer committed the transgression of withholding the reproof, the rebuke, as the Pasuk says in Leviticus 19:7, Ocheach tochiach et amitecha, reprove your fellow man, and do not bear a sin because of him. So not only did he violate this mitzvah from the Torah that you have to rebuke your brother, not only that, that's a sin itself, but he further sins by saying you have not sinned. This faker knows that the guy is a criminal against Hashem, which is the biggest criminal he could possibly be, to be a criminal against Hashem. It's much worse than being a criminal against another person. He tells the guy, no, you're not a sinner, you're a good guy, I know your heart, you mean well. I know that, the Beit Knesset is far from you because your mansion is 40 minutes away, but you know what? God's proud of you because you could be driving anywhere today. You could be driving anywhere today, but you chose to drive to shul. That shows what kind of great character you are. You actually said this to people? I read this. Somebody sent me an article that I don't even know what to call him. Some rabbi celebrated this. He celebrated this. He said he celebrated that he told one of his community people that drove on Shabbat, he tells him, come on, I'll give you an aliyah. And the guy says, listen, Rabbi, you can't give me an aliyah. Meaning the guy knows he can't get an aliyah. Can't go up to the Torah if you mechal Shabbat. So the rabbi says, no, everybody gets an aliyah, you get an aliyah. No, Rabbi, I can't. Why can't you? Everybody else getting an aliyah. Why can't you get an aliyah? He goes, listen, Rabbi, I drove here. And this faker says to him, listen, you could have driven everywhere on Shabbat. You could have driven anywhere. And you chose to drive to shul. HaShem knows your heart. He wants you to get an aliyah. What a chilul Hashem. What a desecration of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. Now, does that mean that you don't give aliyot to anyone to drive on Shabbat? No, not necessarily. What's the ruling? Ruling is you cannot give anyone to Mechalel Shabbat aliyah to Torah of one of the 7. On Shabbat, the 7 aliyot, not allowed to give them. If you want to maybe mekarev, to bring the person closer, and you don't want him to feel so different because he still doesn't realize that he has to keep Shabbat, just like a cow keeps Shabbat. He has to keep Shabbat. He doesn't realize that yet. But you don't want him to feel so, as an outsider. So what do? What did some big Gdolim, big Chachamim did? Say, listen, one of the 7, you're not going to give him. Why? Because it's forbidden from the Torah. Forbidden to give him an aliyah. He says a b'chai, not to say amen. The old Etzion, Rabbi Rav Tzion Abba Shaul, one of the Gdolei Ador, in old Etzion, says a mechalel Shabbat, says Kaddish, you don't say amen. You're not allowed to give him an aliyah. But so how come some big rabbis gave aliyot? They never gave them one of the 7. Never gave them one of the 7. What did they give them? They gave them a mosif. What's mosif? That's like the 8th, 9th, 10th, 15th, 20. They just add aliyot just for, community unity. That's it. There's no obligation. No one needs to say amen to their blessings. No one should say amen to their blessings. The point being is they're not relieving anybody of obligations. If you're going to give an aliyah, that would be one of them. But either way, you don't celebrate this. You don't say, oh, listen, I gave an aliyah to Mechalel Shabbat. But this is what's happening today. Why? Flatterers. Chanfanim. Not only did he not rebuke him, and withholding the rebuke, but he told him you did nothing wrong. You drove on Shabbat when you could have driven anywhere. Hashem Yishmo. This is double sins, Rabotai. As the Pasuk says in Jeremiah 23:14, they have strengthened the hand of the wicked. They have strengthened the hands of the evildoers. This is a serious transgression. In the hand of the foolish flatterer, for he is not zealous for the truth, but abets falsehood, declaring evil to be good and making light into darkness. He also places a pitfall before the sinner himself from 2 vantage points. Meaning, not only is it a sin for this fake rabbi flatterer or friend, whoever he is, not only is it a sin for him, but Rabbeinu Yonah elaborates now and says, no, it's not only evil for him to do it from his own perspective against Hashem, it's evil for him to do it for the actual person he's doing it for. Like you think that you're giving this guy kavod by giving him an aliyah or pretending like he's not driving to shul on Shabbat for the last 20 years. You're in acting as if he's religious, calling him righteous, tzaddik. You think you're doing him a favor. Wrong. Rabbeinu Yonah elaborates. He says, he hurts this person from 2 vantage points. First, as a result of this flattery, the sinner does not regret the evil that he's doing. Meaning this guy is not even thinking about doing tshuva. He's not even thinking about doing tshuva. Now anyone that saw my shiur about Gehenom knows that Gehenom has 7 parts, 7 chambers. And each chamber has chambers within it. There's one chamber called the 7th chamber of Gehenom, where whoever goes in there doesn't come out. And it's mentioned in the Gemara, it's mentioned in Reshit Chochmah, and many other places. The Ramban, Rabbeinu Yonah, and many other Chachamim discuss this chamber of Gehenom, where whoever goes in doesn't come out. One of those people is a Mechalel Shabbat Befaresia. Someone that violates Shabbat and people know he's violating Shabbat. And he doesn't care. Mechalel Shabbat Befaresia goes to the 7th place in Gehenom forever. Doesn't come out of there. Gets permanently punished for eternity. until the neshama is destroyed and the part of God, if you will, returns to God, and that's it. The part of him is gone. There is no him. There is no her anymore. Now, if that person that violated Shabbat, at some point regrets it, says, you know what, I should have kept Shabbat. And then he dies the next day without even keeping Shabbat yet. He hasn't kept Shabbat yet. But he regrets it just a little bit. He says, you know what, I see how these religious people, they ended up having a much more successful life than me. I see how these people, their kids are married to Jews. Their kids are married to Goyot. You know what, I should have kept Shabbat. He realizes it, and it gives him some sorrow. And he says, I'm sorry to Hashem a second. Just a vidu. I'm sorry, Hashem. Just a little bit. That in itself can take him out of the permanent Genom. Now, he's still going to go to Genom for a very, very long time. But it may not be permanent. By you not rebuking him, telling him that he's doing wrong, and in fact, being a flatterer, telling him, no, everything you're doing is good, you're a good guy. Rabbeinu Yonah says that's evil, that's murder. Why is it murder? Because now he's never going to regret. He's never going to regret, which means you are putting him with your own hands inside Gehenom forever. And that's only the first vantage point that it's evil. Second, he repeats his foolishness, the sinner. The next day, since the wicked flatterer praised him for it, praised him in his heart's desire. Besides this, he will bear punishment for the harm he caused to the person whom the sinner wronged by justifying the one who sinned against him. And aside from that, he'll be punished for his false words. So here he's giving you a whole slew of sins that a flatterer gets. He says, first of all, the guy is never going to regret it. You put him in Gehenom, surely you're going to Gehenom with him. That's number one. Number two, the guy is going to continue sinning. Why? Because you told him he's perfectly fine. So he's going to he's not going to regret what he already did. He's going to continue sinning because you're telling him he's allowed to be in a cash advance business. You're telling him that he's allowed to be a profession that's forbidden. He's allowed to do things that are forbidden according to Torah. You're telling him he's doing nothing good. Oh, he's doing everything good. So he's going to continue sinning. And if that's not bad enough, the flatterer will get punished because this guy will continue hurting people with his criminal behavior, taking advantage of people, because if he's not listening to Hashem, surely he's not going to follow what people say either. You cannot be moral on a regular basis without being moral with Hashem. Simply impossible. We proved that already a few days ago with the recent lecture. Now, and the people that get hurt, his customers, his family members, his children, anyone that's in his life that he's going to hurt, they're all going to come and be prosecutors against that flatterer that did not rebuke him. All the damage that he did to them will be on that flatterer's head, be it a rabbi or otherwise. And on top of that, also there's an additional punishment the flatterer gets for being a liar. As the verse says in Psalms, you will destroy speakers of deceit. Tovad divrei chazav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will destroy liars. And also in Proverbs 17:15, one who justifies an evildoer and he who condemns a righteous person, both are an abomination of Hashem. Anyone that justifies the wicked people, continuing their wickedness, doesn't tell them to do TeShuva. Like somebody told me, listen, I asked, listen, you have your community, you've been here for a long time, your keilah, they keep Shabbat? Yeah, I think so. I don't know what they do home, but, what do you mean you don't know what they do home? You're their rabbi for 30 years, you don't know what they do home? You don't know if they keep Shabbat? How do you not know? How do you know? How do you know? What do you know? You know their bank accounts. You know what they do for a living. How do you not know if they keep Shabbat or not? I'm not saying you need to know everything that's behind hidden doors, how he is and what he is behind it. But at the very least, you should know if he keeps Shabbat or not. Doesn't know. Rabotai, if a person justifies evildoers or condemns a righteous person that's trying to help them do tshuva, that's an abomination to HaShem. This applies even more so, Rabbeinu Yonah says, if the iniquity of these people is public knowledge. For when the flatterer says to him before others, you're pure without iniquity, he has desecrated and demeaned both the law and justice. Dat vadin. He says, this is already bad enough if you tell the guy that you know is a criminal in business, a criminal against HaShem. You know, but you tell him, no, you're pure, you're a good guy, you mean well, you don't need a lot of money, HaShem needs you, all types of nonsense. It's already bad enough that you're doing that. Now you're doing it and other people know about it. They're actually even hearing this. You calling this wicked person a tzaddik becomes even magnified. Why? Because now they think, hey, I'm going to be like him. I'm going to be like him, Hashem Yishmo. This is why, Rabotai, unfortunately many times, people that are rabbis, you see sometimes their kids are not exactly religious, to say it politely. Now, this, of course, there's unfortunately sometimes bad apples. There's unfortunately sometimes the kid had a bad friend no one knew about and that got him off and so on and so forth. Yeah. But if you see that you have let's say, 5, 10 kids, and half of them can't stand the Torah, it can't be that it's not your fault. It can't be. Why? Because if you are so-called teaching Torah, you are publicizing Torah, you have a community and so on, but half your kids don't keep Torah and Mitzvot, there's something wrong with you. Why? Because your kids, maybe not all of them, but most of them will look up to their parents. Most kids normally look up to their parents. And they want to satisfy their parents. They want to please their parents. They want their parents to say, I'm proud of you. That's what kids want, especially as they're growing up. So what do the kids do? They notice everything that the parents do. Who they're friends with, who they admire, who they look up to, and so on. When a kid sees that every time a Talmid Chacham comes to the house, you give him a lot of kavod and so on, you talk about him, you read his Torah, you learn about him, what is that kid going to do? He's going to want to be like that Talmid Chacham. If he sees you're putting tzaddikim, pictures of tzaddikim on your walls, look, that's the Baba Sali, that's Rabbeinu Yonah, that's Rav Zalman, Milyadi, that's Rav Wasserman, all these tzaddikim. What do the kids say? I want to be a tzaddik. Why? My Abba, my Ima, they admire tzaddikim. I want to be like them. But if they see that the only people you admire are rich people, religious or not, the only people you admire are superstars, the only people you admire on television, the only people you admire are people of materialism, guess what? They're going to say, what do I need to be this rabbi for? Why would I teach Torah like my Abba? Why would I keep Torah bichlal? My father looks up to all these rich people. I want to be like them, so I want my father to look up to me. Hence, that's what happens in 1, 2, 3, and unfortunately many, many houses of religious people, where the parents look up to rich people, look up to politicians, look up to all types of celebrities, and then they're surprised that their kids don't want to live a Torah life. What are you surprised for? You made him. You made him that way. You admired the wicked people, now he's going to become one. You admired that superstar that walks around half naked on a runway, now your daughter wants to be one. You did it, not her. Don't blame the kid. The kid's not bad. You are bad. You did it. Why? You admired him. Miss Religious Sarah over here. Miss Religious Rivka over here. Miss Religious Lady over here. She admires the celebrity girl. She admires the superstar. And then she's surprised that her 15-year-old Bat Yisrael has a boyfriend. What are you surprised for? You admire these people. No, I only like to listen to her sing. What is she singing about? Being married to 15 men at the same time? What is she singing about? Her looks. What is she singing about? You're admiring that? What is she singing about? Promiscuity? And this is what you're showing your kids? This is who you admire? Every one of your girlfriends shows up to your house half naked. You don't say a single thing. And then you're surprised your daughter is rolling up her sleeves. She doesn't want to wear sleeves anymore. She doesn't want to wear a skirt anymore. She wants to wear practically underwear. You're surprised? You did it! You did it! And this is happening, Rabotai, everywhere. I keep speaking against the wigs on a regular basis for the last 4 or 5 years because it sources from idolatry. But Chachamim, greater than I could ever be, didn't even care about the idolatry part of it. I even heard when my own ears, Rav Ovadia Alav Shalom says, what, you want to say it's from idolatry, not idolatry? It doesn't matter it's from idolatry. It's still not allowed, these wigs. Why? They are not allowed. Why? They look like real hair, and today it is real hair. It's attracting other men. Why does an average Jewish girl want to wear real hair on her head? Why? Because she saw the celebrities do it. She saw the girls from France, the putzot, the promiscuous girls of the runway do it. She saw the model on the Macy's poster do it. She saw she has a hairstyle like that, so I want to have a hairstyle like that. And then you're surprised that your daughter doesn't want to get married until she's in her 30s, by the time she's already tried a few boyfriends. Then you're surprised that your daughter doesn't even want to be religious. Then you're surprised that Shmuli Boteach, Shem Reshaim Yirkav, his daughter opened a sex store, Hashem Yishmo V'Yatzil, and says on national television, her father is our motivation to open a sex store. You're surprised at this? When he's the rabbi to the pedophile of the century, Michael Jackson, he is the rabbi that desecrates Hashem's name on a regular basis. He's the rabbi that says that homosexuality is not such a big deal after all. He's the rabbi that talks about sex like it's literally a computer printer, writes a book with one of the most filthy human beings on planet Earth that caused more men to sin than probably anybody else in the last century. He writes a book with her. Motivated his daughter to open a store, a sex store. You're surprised at this? And what, you think your daughter is going to be any different when you admire people like that? You admire rabbis like this? You admire liberalism like this? You admire celebrities like this? You look like them? Yes, it's not allowed to wear a wig because of the idolatry. But the Gdolim that came before us, over 130 Gdolei Ado, over the last 2,000 years have said, wigs are forbidden, even when they look like mops on your head. They're forbidden. And you're still wearing it? Why? Especially when it doesn't look like a mop. You know why you're wearing it? Because you saw a celebrity wear it. You saw a superstar wear it. And you want to look like her. You want to look like her? That's your business. But don't come crying to the rabbis. Don't come crying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu when your daughter doesn't even want to be religious. When your daughter wants to be the superstar, not just look like her. Don't come crying. Why? That's what happens. No, but I didn't mean it that way. Mean it, didn't mean it, don't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. And the rabbi that told you it's allowed, and the people that told you it's okay to look like that, to act like that, to admire people like that, they will get even more punishment than you. Why? Because they knew better. Then comes section 193 of the third gate of Rabbeinu Yonah. Yes, we're not finished. Section 193. Rabbeinu Yonah says the following. The fourth category of flatterers is a person who associates himself with an evil person. Meaning, simply being friends with evil people. Not allowed. Evil doesn't mean murderer. Evil means a rasha, someone that desecrates the Torah, someone who makes fun of the Torah, someone that's not keeping Torah and mitzvot. And you, it's not that you know him and he just happens to be part of your family. No, you actually go out of your way to be friends with him. Without an intention, to get him to do tshuva, without an intention to have him change anything or her change anything. No, you just like to keep company with this person. You want to go on vacation with them. You want your kids to play together. You want all that stuff. Even though his ideology and your ideology are enemies. You don't care. Rabbeinu Yonah says, a person who associates with evil people, he's not only does not rebuke this wicked person with his mouth, and does not keep him at a distance, meaning not only you're not rebuking him, not only you're not staying away from this person, but actually he draws him near to him as a friend. As the Pasuk says in Chronicles 20 verse 37, because you have drawn near with Achaziyahu, HaShem has foiled your actions. But the righteous detest the wicked. As the Pasuk says in Tehillim 15:4, a despicable person is detested in his eyes. Our sages in the Gemara Masekhet Bava Kamma, page 92b, our sages said, concerning this, not for naught does the starling mingle with the raven, but because it is of the same species. Every bird dwells with its kind, and a human with one who is like him. Moreover, they said, it's forbidden to look at the likeness of an evil person. Whoever looks at the likeness of a wicked person, his eyesight dims as he ages, as we learned from Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu. Chachamim say Yitzchak Avinu didn't know that Esav was wicked. His own son was wicked. Yitzchak Avinu, Kodesh Kodeshim, Upachad Yitzchak, didn't know his own son is wicked. Why? Because his son Esav was mamash soldier of the Satan. Knew how to fool his own father, as righteous as he was. Knew how to fool. He had huge potential, Esav. He could have been one of the patriarchs. He chose otherwise. The Ramban, Nachmanides, says Esav fooled Yitzchak. That's how smart he was. And because Yitzchak looked at his own son, he went blind later on in his life. Why? Looking at wicked people weakens the eyes, Rabbeinu Yonah says. Weakens the eyes and they start failing. And he says at the end of this particular section, we've already clearly informed you of this matter, for there are many pathways towards death await one who associates himself with evil people. So here we see that Rabbeinu Yonah did not hold any punches whatsoever. As I've told you many times when I've quoted his Sefer Kodesh, Shaarei Teshuvah, brings countless sources. And one of the sources that he just mentioned is the Gemara in Bava Kamma. Gemara Bava Kamma, page 92b, has a few other things to say that we'll elaborate on. Chachamim were learning different sayings, different words of wisdom. And where they sourced in the Torah, as we always know, anything that's of any value, anything that's any good, has to have a source in the Torah. So, Rava says to Rabba Bar Mari, from where can we learn the source for the saying that it's a bad palm that grows next to barren trees? Bad palm growing to bad trees. Meaning that the bad palm is obviously it's not growing, it's not bearing any fruit, but it tends to be next to other bad trees, which in essence is the saying that they typically that the someone that's a close friend to wicked people, he himself is empty himself. He himself is empty. So where do we learn this? So he says to Rava, this thing is written in the Torah across the board, meaning what you just said, that you are who your friends are. If you are friends with wicked people, that's because you yourself are empty, you yourself are problematic. He says we learn this in every single section of the Torah. We learn this in the written Torah. We learn this in the oral Torah. We learn this in the Nevi'im, in the Ketuvim. We learn it in the Mishnah. We learn it everywhere. And he starts bringing them the sources. He says, we learn this in the Torah as we see in the book of Genesis. Genesis 28:9, where it says that Esav went to Ishmael and took Machalat, the daughter of Ishmael, as a wife for himself. What does it mean? Esav came from Yitzchak Avinu. His father was Kodesh Kodashim. His grandfather Avraham Avinu. He was a twin brother to Yaakov Avinu. Esav came from the best yichus in the history of mankind. The best family in history. But still chose evil. So he is the bad palm. Ishmael, on the other hand, is just Ishmael is the person that was simply barren. Nothing, empty. Why? Ishmael, although he was bad, especially before he did Teshuvah, Ishmael, he didn't have any yichus. Who was his mother? The Egyptian Hagar? He didn't have much yichus. Yeah, his father was Avraham, but he was associated with a bunch of wicked people and so on. So when Esav went to Ishmael, why? Because the two saw a lot of alike in each other. A lot of similarities between each other. They didn't just choose each other as friends just because they were part of the same family. There was a lot of people in the world at the time. He didn't go to Yaakov Avinu. He didn't go to Avraham Avinu. He didn't go to Malki Tzedek. He didn't go to any of the tzaddikim that were in a generation. He Dafka went to Ishmael. Why? Because, as it says, the bad palm grows next to the barren trees. And then it also says in the prophets, the Nevi'im. The Nevi'im, in the book of Judges, chapter 11, verse 3, Iftach was says that the boorish men collected around Yiftach and they ventured forth with him. It says that Yiftach was connected to a bunch of wicked people. Why? Shows who he is. And then a third time, it's in the writings. Here they're mentioning one of the writings from the son of Jeremiah. Son of Jeremiah was called Ben Sirah. Ben Sirah, he wrote a book similar to Proverbs. And there's a lot of wisdom in it, but one is not supposed to study it until he has become well versed in the rest of the Torah that he's obligated to learn. But nonetheless, there's a lot of wisdom in it that's quoted in the Gemara. Ben Sirah is quoted in the Gemara, a very interesting story of how he came to be and so on, very mystical. But the point is, he has some wisdom in there. And he says in his book, every bird dwells with its kind, and a person with someone similar to him. And we also learned it, he says, in the Mishnah itself, in our oral Torah, in Masekhet Kelim, chapter 12, Mishnah number 2. What's the Mishnah? That all that is connected to something that's impure, tameh, is itself tameh. And all that is connected to something that's tahol is tahol. Whatever is pure is connected to something pure. Whatever is impure is connected to something impure. Simple. If something is connected to something impure, that makes it impure. If something is pure and it connects to something else that's impure, it makes it impure. But if it's pure and it connects to pure, then it's both of them are pure. Point being is that you're always going to see that the tameh is connected to the tameh and the pure is connected to the pure. So that's in our Mishnah. If your few are wicked, your friends are wicked. You're tameh, your friends are tameh. If you are good, your friends are good. You're pure, your friends are pure. And then he says we're even learning it in this Mishnah. The Mishnah that Rabbeinu Yonah quoted. What's the Breta actually? What's the Breta? In the name of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says that it's not for nothing that the starling, which is a certain type of bird, went next to the raven. But rather because the raven is of its own species. Where all of these suggestions, Chachamim say, are giving us the general idea that a person's bad friends are instructive regarding of who he is himself. So now that we have all of that on the table, every one of us knows we are who our friends are. You've heard the saying. Now you have the source from the Torah. So now you say, well, Kyle, so what can I do about it? What if I start rebuking people and they don't listen? What if I do this? What if I do that? Gemara continues. Gemara Masekhet Bava Kamma, page 92b continues. Rabbi says to Rabbi Bar Mari, from where do we learn the source where people say, if you called out to your fellow in order to rebuke him for something evil that he did, and he didn't hear you, he didn't even answer you, lift up the wall and throw it on him. What does it mean? You tried rebuking your friend for something evil, and he's not hearing you, so throw the whole wall on him. Meaning that if you rebuked your friend and he doesn't want to hear the truth, doesn't care about nothing, then just let him go and let him ruin his own life. Wait, hold on a second. What, we're just going to give him up? We're going to tell him, listen, you should watch Rabbi Yaron Reuven's Shiur, it's going to change your life. He presses play, he presses stop 3 seconds later. Okay, I tried giving it to him, that's it, I'm finished, right? Wrong. Why wrong? Because the Gemara Masekhet Arachim says, no, you have to go and send him shiurim, and bring him to shiurim, and invite him to shiurim, and try to tell him the truth over and over again until he hits you. And that's what the Rambam paskins la'alacha. So how could it be? On one hand, the Gemara says to us, you tell him the truth. He doesn't want to hear it, let him, suit himself. Let him drop in his own hole, ruin his own life. Another part, the Gemara says, hold on a second. You told him something. He didn't hear you? Go again. 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 Again, until he hits you. Meaning, till the end. Don't give up on him. Don't leave anybody behind. So you have contradictions. How can we solve this contradiction? We can't solve the contradiction. Why? We don't need to. Nor do we have the wisdom to. But our Chachamim do. Our Chachamim do, Rabotai Yekarim, the Shelah HaKadosh. The Shelah HaKadosh, in Aruch LaNer, to Masekhet Yevamot, says the following. He says, if you go to your evil friend who violates Shabbat, who's stealing from his customers, who's cheating on his wife, who's doing all these bad different things, one of them, all of them, whatever it is. You go to your friend, you go to your girlfriend, you tell her you're doing all these evil things. And she says, yeah, you know what, you're right, but I don't know, I'm addicted to it, I like it, it's hard for me to change. That one, you don't ever give up on them. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. Why? But I told her already 500 times to keep Shabbat. She's still not keeping Shabbat. I told her 500 times to leave the non-Jewish boyfriend. She's still with him. Keep going. Why? She's receptive and is acknowledging that she's wrong, but she's unfortunately addicted to the desire. But if you keep going, eventually you'll get her to do TeShuva. On the other hand, if you tell her, if you tell him, keep Shabbat, do mitzvot, do this, and he answers you like a Dennis Prager type of answer. Listen, I keep Shabbat my way. I drive on Shabbat, but only to affairs that have to do with Shabbat. To the Bet Knesset, to a Shabbat dinner. Yeah, but you're not allowed to drive on Shabbat, it's fire. Listen, you have your sages, I have myself. I believe that driving on Shabbat is not fire because I don't see the fire. Shelah HaKadosh says, this apikos has rationalized and justified the sin. Him, you don't rebuke him anymore. Finished, even after only one time. Why? He is not only he's not receptive, even if he is receptive, he has justified and rationalized the sin. Let him die in his own hole that he buries himself in. That guy, you leave him alone. That girl, you leave her alone. But if they're receptive and still continue to sin, they know it's a sin, but they continue, keep going, keep rebuking, keep doing. But if they justify the sin and they say, listen, this is not a sin, it's a mitzvah. I go to shul. God wants me to go to shul. Yeah, but you're driving on Shabbat. God wants me to go to shul. It's more important for me to go to shul than to not drive on Shabbat. He justified the sin, rationalized it. That guy, you do not rebuke him. Why? He's an apikolos, and he has to get a personal rebuke. from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. That's the only thing that's going to help him. Now, Rabotai Karim, comes a section that's even harsher than what I just said. Why? Because, Rabotai, this needs to be said. Because we live in a generation that has a dumb mentality. What's the mentality? Mentality is, you only live once. You only live once. Let me enjoy. Let me marry whoever I want. Let me eat whatever I want. Let me do whatever I want. This is not the only generation with such a stupid mentality. The book of Isaiah, chapter 22, verse 13 and 14. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, look, behold, there is joy and gladness, slaying of cattle and slaughtering of sheep, eating meat and drinking wine, and saying, eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. He says, look, despite all the disaster, you're seeing people dying, you're seeing people getting punished, you're seeing people, coronavirus, you're seeing the whole system go upside down. You're still having a good time. Let me eat, let me drink, let me have some more wine, let me have a party, let me this, let me that, as if everything is good. Why? You have the mentality. Eat, drink. Who knows? Tomorrow we could die. You only live once. Comes the prophet Isaiah in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says the following to continue this in verse 14. Now this sin will never be atoned for. That attitude that we only live once. That mentality that let me just have a good time. No, come on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will understand me. That type of mentality, the prophet says, will never be forgiven, will never be atoned for until you die, says HaShem, the master of legions. Why? It's Chilul Hashem. When you say, I'm going to sin and I'll just deal with it later because anyway you only live once, that now becomes Chilul Hashem, Chilul Hashem, Chilul Hashem, Rabbi Hashem Yishmor. Chilul Hashem, the Gemara Masekhet Yevamot, at the end of the Masechet, says someone that desecrates HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name cannot fix that sin until he dies. Hashem Yishmor. Everything else you can fix while you're alive. Chilul Hashem you cannot fix until you die. Chachamim come and give us a pocket of mercy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Kiddush Hashem can fix it. But you can't do Kiddush Hashem, Chilul Hashem, Kiddush Hashem, Chilul Hashem. You can't joke around with the system. There's always an opening to, Hashem always leaves the back door open to get us out of the garbage that we got ourselves in. But if a person continues to say, you only live once, tomorrow we're going to die. The prophet says in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this sin will never be atoned for until you die. Just the mentality is already a sin of Chilul Hashem. Now, Rabotai, the prophet Amos, chapter 5, verse 10 to 13, says one of the scariest things I've ever read in the Torah. He says, they despise the one who rebukes them, who admonishes them by the gate. And the one who speaks purely, they detest him. Says, there was a rabbi, there was a prophet, there was someone good that cared. They came and rebuked you, told you have to do TeShuva, stop desecrating Hashem's name. Instead of listening to him, you hate him. Instead of listening to her, you hate her. You detest her. She's here again. He's here again, this religious fanatic. This speaker, I can't stand him. He's too crazy. The prophet Amos says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me a message for you personally. Not you 3,000 years ago. You today. You that are watching. Whenever that time may be. He gave me a personal message for you in an envelope. This is what the message is. You despise those who admonish the one who speak purely. For I know your transgressions are many, and the sins are substantial, O oppressors of the tzaddik. I know you have many sins. I know you have many, many transgressions. You, those that go against the tzaddik. Who's the tzaddik? The person that's trying to help you do tshuva. Whether male or female, the person that's trying to save your neshama, that's full of filth of sins, you not only are against them, you detest them, you hate them, you send them emails cursing him out. I know how many sins you have, you oppressor of the tzaddik. Therefore, the prudent man keeps silent at that time, for it is a time of evil. HaShem Yishmo. Now you have no idea what he just said. I'm going to tell you. Comes the Alshich HaKadosh and says on this verse from the prophet Amos, okay, we got the first part, hating the rebuker, hating the truth, I got it. Making fun of the tzaddikim, I got it. What is the whole last part saying about stay quiet because this is a time of evil? Comes the Alshich HaKadosh and says, when Am Yisrael even rejects the rebukers who say the truth, then they leave HaShem no choice but to turn it into a time of evil, i.e. Holocaust. HaShem Yishmor v'yatzil. The Rav Chida elaborates, saying the difference between an Etzra'ah and an Etra'ah, the bad time and the evil time, there's a difference between them. What's the difference? Because at Etzra'ah, you can still cry and pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a bad time. Corona. Other bad times we had. It's a bad time. It's not an evil time. Why? But when Hashem Chas v'Shalom sees that we're going against the rebukers, we're not supporting Torah values. In fact, we're going against them. We're admiring celebrities, politicians, businessmen, tycoons, and not the people that are real superheroes. The real superheroes that are helping your community do tshuva, whether they be male or female, whether they be rich or poor, whether they be tall or short, whether they be a convert or natural born Jew. The one that's telling the truth to the people, you do not support them. In fact, you go against them. Chas v'shalom, you're forcing HaKadosh Baruch Hu into a Etzra'ah, into a Etra'ah, into a time of evil, as the prophet Amos said. In this time of evil, there's nothing that can be done because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave control to the Malach Amavet to do as he pleases. Holocaust. You could have prayed 1,000 times. It didn't help. Too late. Rabotai Yekarim, we are in a situation today where we are in an Etra'ah. We're in an Etzra'ah. We're in a time we can cry. We're in a time we can pray. We have to do everything possible to make sure that it doesn't turn Chas v'Shalom into a time of evil, that prayer doesn't matter anymore. You see, Rabotai, the Chachamim told us time and time again that fighting for the truth is not something that's just simply recommended. It's the lifeblood of Judaism. Rav Chaim Sonnenfeld, alav shalom, was head rabbi of Yerushalayim, and at that time there was a politician that was discovered by the community that this politician, his wife, was a promiscuous woman and was cheating on him, but he didn't care. So the Beit Din says she's forbidden to be with him. Why? She is considered a zonah, prostitute. Now this politician didn't care about Torah, didn't care about Torah values, didn't care about the rebukers, didn't care about nothing. So what did he do? He went to the secular court, the secular Nazi mentality court, who says anyone that makes fun of this politician's wife gets a fine from the government of 50,000 shekels. Rav Chaim Sonnenfeld As soon as he heard what the secular court did, how it ruled against the Beit Din, it ruled against the Torah publicly, he went, he counted exactly how much money he had. And he arranged a meeting for everybody to show up, all the Chachamim, everybody to come, including politicians, everyone to come. The Gadol Hador is about to make a speech. Everyone got there. He shows up and he says, this woman is a zonah. She's forbidden to her husband. She's not allowed to be with him. He's not allowed to be with her. Takes the money, 50,000. Again, I repeat, he says, this woman is a zonah. She's forbidden to be with him. He's forbidden to be with her. Here's another 50,000. All of his money. Every penny he had, he put on the line. Why? To make sure our Torah doesn't get desecrated. That's a person. It's not just a tzaddik because of the Torah that he learned, but the emet that he stood for. You see, Rabotai Yikarim, instead of admiring the wicked people, he followed exactly what the Torah says. We hate those that hate you. We hate those that desecrate you. Today, Rabotai, people are living a fantasy because they have not only ignorance, but ignorance facilitated by an environment of flatterers to tell them otherwise. Just today, young man calls into the live shiur by Rabbi Chaim, and he says on a live shiur, he says, Rabbi, I'm a Tinok Shenishba, so I'm not going to get punished. Tinok Shenishba is a captured baby, where in the old days, these Christians used to take Jewish babies, steal them from the Jewish parents, and raise them as their own, so the kid would never know that he's a Jew. Today, they don't steal them as babies, they steal them as adults because of ignorance. But nonetheless, this kid that was kidnapped from his parents doesn't know he's a Jew, so he's not judged the same stringency as, let's say, someone who knows he's a Jew, knows about Shabbat and so on. So, some would say, okay, listen, some people that grew up in secular houses, they're Tinok Shenishba. We've already answered this whole sugya of who's a Tinok Shenishba, who's not. The overwhelming majority of the Chachamim in recent generations and past generations say anyone that knows that he's a Jew, knows that Shabbat exists, he's no longer a Tinok Shenishba, he's no longer a captured baby, even if he grew up surrounded by secularism. He's not a captured baby. But nonetheless, this young kid is not the only one, not the first one, not the last one. It says, listen, I'm a Tinok Shenishba, so I'm not going to get punished. So Rav Chaim says to him, hold on a second. Why are you a Tinok Shenishba? I'm going to free you. Why are you captured? Why? Because of why? He goes, oh, I don't know anybody religious. He goes, yeah, you're listening to a Shiur Torah right now. You're listening to a Shiur Torah right now. I'm freeing you from your capture. That's it, you're no longer Nishba. Finished. And anyway, where did you learn this term, Tinok Shenishba? Obviously, it's not the first Shiur Torah you ever heard. But somebody fed this kid the idea that if you didn't grow up religious, you can stay a Mechalel Shabbat, you can stay an ignoramus, you can stay homeless when it comes to Torah, and still go to heaven. Somebody told him this. That's the saddest part. Now, Be'ezrat Hashem, this kid's going to start keeping Shabbat and everything else and join the enormous list, Baruch Hashem, of new people that are keeping Shabbat. In the last month and a half, we have nearly 1,000 people that have signed up to keep Shabbat from now on. We're, I think, somewhere around 900 and change. Unbelievable amount of people are now learning what it means to keep Shabbat. Anyone that is not keeping Shabbat currently, a Jew that's not keeping Shabbat currently, wants to start taking on Shabbat from now on. Not a one Shabbat for a year. From now on, wants to take it, you send me your name, we'll add you to the list, and we'll have somebody sent to the Kotel HaMa'aravi, the Western Wall, pray for you. Pray for Parnassah, Zivug, all the prayers that you need. Just tell us you're going to keep Shabbat from now on. If you already keep Shabbat, get somebody else to keep Shabbat, and we'll put both of your names on the list of people that we pray for in the Kotel HaMa'aravi, the Western Wall. We have to, Rabotai, fight for the truth. If we don't fight for the truth, the lies will kill us. The lies will kill us, Rabotai. as they have been killing us already for generation after generation. You see, Rabotai, the truth is out there. The truth has always been out there, but unfortunately sometimes the truth is tainted with desires, with people that have their own desires and they make you part of their acquisition of desires. Don't let the world destroy you. Don't let the flatterers destroy you. Just like you've spent a lot of time and effort to learn to be good at whatever it is that you do, learn how to be a good Jew. Learn how to be a person that serves HaShem and fulfills His purpose. Learn how to get to a point where your children admire the greatest Chachamim there is. Admire Torah scholars. And we'll finish off with a story. I've told once before, but it's worth 1,000,000 times to be told. Rav Wasserman, alav shalom, had a righteous student who was very wealthy that he went to visit him from time to time when he wanted to collect money for the yeshiva in Baranovich. And one time he came to him in the dead of winter, lots of snow, after a little while turns into mud and so on. So when Rav Wasserman arrived at this person's house, he saw he's full of mud in his shoes, and he knew that his student was very wealthy and had very fancy Persian carpets, Persian rugs in the front, and he didn't want to ruin them. So he knew that there's a small entrance in the back to the kitchen. So Rav Wasserman went around the house and went to the back and knocked on the door to open. His student, his righteous student, opened the door with great disappointment. Said, Rebbe, what are you doing? He says, I'm here to visit you, to talk to you. He says, no, I know, but why are you here coming from the back? What's going on? So Rav Wasserman just looks at himself. He has mud on his legs, on his feet. He says, Rebbe, why are you ruining my education for my kids? Why? Because you know I have fancy, expensive rugs in the front? So now my kids that I keep telling them to admire the Chachamim, to admire Torah scholars, to admire HaKadosh Baruch Hu and anyone that's going to follow his Torah, now they're going to think that my rugs are more important than the Chachamim. Please, Rebbe, I beg you, please go back around the house and enter from the front and make sure to have all of the mud inside my house, on my carpets, making stains, so my kids can see that the mud from the Chacham's feet is worth more than 1,000,000 rugs. The mud from the Chacham's feet is worth more than 1,000,000 rugs. That's chinuch. That is how you educate your children. Admire the Chachamim, not for what they have as far as material possessions, but for who they are as a result of the Torah that they toil for, the Torah that they live for. That's admirable. That's an admiration worth having. Be'ezrat Hashem, this too will be a lesson for each and every single one of us to wake up our own sleepy neshamot, admire the Chachamim, admire those that are worthy, admire the Torah, and most importantly, use that to get closer and closer to the ultimate purpose of life, of serving Hashem with the utmost joy, happiness, and excitement. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen ve'amen.
You know when you have a dream and you see a pretty woman? You've had that? Now you never actually see an ugly woman in dreams. It's always a pretty woman. by the way, it's always the same woman for all of us. All of us have a dream of the same exact woman. And she's more dangerous than the Satan himself. Who is she? You're not even allowed to say her name. What are you going to call her for?
It functions very much like drugs. People are addicted to it.
I tried to quit dozens of times, hundreds of times.
My fantasies and stuff, they're not mine anymore.
Cabinet ministers, judges, diplomats, even one of the country's top spies. These men are accused of some of the most sadistic child sexual abuse imaginable on hundreds of victims.
It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never going to have enough. If you starve it and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah, you're always going to be happy.
HaShem Na'aseh v'Netzliach, Shaarei Kelim, introducing the new B'ezrat HaShem lecture center. We HaShem are here in Cooper City, Florida, on Sterling Avenue. We have in the same shopping center. We have a major kosher supermarket. Lots of Jews out here. Initially, we're going to start off this place next month with the place where we can do our weekly shiurim 3 times a week. And as Hashem, as the crowd grows, maybe we'll add some more shiurim in Hebrew as well. Initially, it's going to be for men and women in English, and then later on, Hashem will do some other things. Later on, we're going to need to transform this place also into a synagogue. But as you can see, the walls are empty. We need an enormous amount of books. We need a Sefer Torah. We need an Aron Kodesh. We need a Mechitza. We need a Bima. We need all the holy things that you need for a synagogue. Now, throughout the years, we've been very generous to other people who've donated to Torah, who've donated money to different synagogues, and I'm sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to send us the right people to donate all of these things to our organization, because all we want to do is spread Torah to the world. So anyone that is serious and looking to make a major contribution to our organization, whether it be the Sefer Torah, or the Aron HaKodesh, or the Mechitza, please contact us, or simply go to our website, be'ezrat hashem.org, and may Hashem continue to bless you.